Hello and welcome. Grant Moulton here with Prosperitas Financial. I've had a couple questions recently about interest rates. So what I'd like to do is talk about them and just a little bit of generalities with it. What happens when the Fed raises or lowers interest rates? Well, when the Fed lowers rates, it's now typically cheaper for banks and other institutions to borrow money. When they do that, they take that money and they'll invest it. So historically and statistically speaking, when the Fed lowers interest rates, it's usually a good thing for the stock market. Not always, but usually is. But more importantly, how do interest rates affect the bonds in your portfolio? Remember, when we buy bonds, they're going to be your defensive team. They have two main functions. One is to make sure that your portfolio doesn't drop as much as the stock market does, retain some of that value. The second thing they're meant to do is to provide current income to the portfolio. So if you buy a brand new bond that's paying 5%, right, at face value, if the Fed decides to lower interest rates, well, maybe you can only get a new bond now for 4%. If that's the case, this bond is now worth more. Somebody is going to pay you a premium for that bond because they can only get a 4% bond at market value now. So when we look at bonds overall, when the interest rates go down, the value of your defensive team will increase in value, your bonds. Conversely, if the Fed raises interest rates and say you can get a brand new bond at 6%, no one's going to pay you full value for their 5% when they could get a 6% bond. So in that case, you'd actually have to sell the bond at a discount. So when the Fed raises interest rates, the value of your bonds typically decreases in value. Your defensive team might go down a little bit. But remember, we're using bonds as a protection, as a ballast against the stock market, and to provide current income to your portfolio. If you'd like to know how bonds are affecting your portfolio or how interest rates are, I'd love the chance to talk to you. You can reach me at 949-226-6222, extension 146. Thank you.